Tune into this week's Xamarin.Essential API of the Week, where I cover text-to-speech, enabling you to speak back text with a single line of code. So tune in. Welcome back, everyone, to another Xamarin.Essential API of the Week. Today, we're going to take a look at text-to-speech, which is a very nifty API enabling you to speak back text to your users. You can use it in all sorts of different scenarios, and it's very, very simple with just a few lines of code. Additionally, you can even query locales so you can speak back text in different languages with a few lines of code. So let's take a look and get started. I'm over here on our docs.microsoft.com, the one-stop shop for everything Xamarin and Xamarin.Essentials. We have great getting started guides, feature guides for every single API, including text-to-speech. Now, there's very little setup that you need. If you've already done File New Project, you already have Xamarin.Essentials installed, or make sure you read that Getting Started guide on how to add the Xamarin.Essentials and NuGet and the setup code. Text-to-speech is very, very simple. You just say, speak async. That's literally it, and pass it a string. Now, you will note that this is an asynchronous method here, so nothing else will happen until that utterance, as we call it, or that speech block finishes. If you would like to continue your logic, you can use the continueth flag to speak the text, and when done, do something else. So this way, if you need to run code after it in succession, you can do that here. What's nice is that you can even cancel the current text-to-speech that is speaking back using a cancellation token. So for example here, I give it a cancellation token source. And then if I click a button to say cancel, I would just say cancel, which is very nice. You can also queue up text-to-speech here. So here I can do things on a background thread, a foreground thread, and just simply await hello world 1, hello world 2, hello world 3. So you have the option there. Additionally, you can do this without a task. You can do task win all and then give it a whole bunch of different things. So it's a very fluent and very flexible API to use it how you will in your application. There's also different volume and speech and locale options, so let's just go ahead and use it. So over here in Visual Studio, I've of course installed Xamarin.Essentials into all of my libraries, iOS, Android, and my .NET Standard project. You can also install that into your Tizen or UWP project or wherever else you're using it in your applications. Now, I've gone ahead and on Android done the initialization code and the permissions that are here. That, again, was already set up for you if you did File New Project. So only if you're adding this to an existing app would you need to put that there. So here I have a text-to-speech page, very, very simple. I have an entry block that says entry text and a button that says speak. I also have a little slider here that goes from 0 to 1 that'll enable me to set the volume of the playback as an option here. Now when this button is clicked, button clicked is called. Go ahead and take a note here because I'm pretty sure I have this text here. We're going to delete this really quick. Okay. So whenever I click that button, we just need to call text-to-speech. So here we go in my code behind this page. Here's my button click that was set up. Now it is asynchronous, so I added the async flag here. So an async void for that event handler. You could, of course, put that in your view model or anywhere else where it may need to be to execute the code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say await text-to-speech, which is in Xamarin.Essentials namespace. And there's two different methods here, getLocales async, which we'll talk about later, and speak async. So here, if I say speak async, I can pass in any text. So let's do that entry text here. So whatever I type, it will speak back. Now additionally, we can see that there are some other things that I can pass in, such as speech options. So if I wanted to, I could also do new speech options in here. And speech options gives me the ability to pass it a locale, a pitch, or a value. Now these are all nullable, so if I don't set it, it's still null and it'll just use the default. So here for this float, I could say slider volume dot value on here, and that will set it here. Now we'll go ahead and set this as a float instead of a double, so it'll parse back correctly to 0 to 1. Now if you want to read through the documentation, we can see here that all the values that you can set, minimum and maximum for pitch and volume here. So let's go ahead and run this with that single line of code. That's literally it. I do want to mention that that method here will throw an exception if the device doesn't have a text-to-speech engine on it. Now I'm using the Android emulators with Google services installed on them, which is the default that you'll want to use. Else, again, it will throw an exception. And on essentially every single device that's out there, it'll have text-to-speech on it. But you'll want to make sure you put that in a try-catch to make sure it is supported on the device. So here we go. I'm over on my application. We can go down to my text-to-speech, and I'll say, hello to Xamarin.Essentials. Exclamation point. Now you're not hearing anything because my computer is muted. So now I can go ahead and turn it up.
Hello to Xamarin.Essentials.
Pretty cool. If I turn down the volume over here.
Hello to Xamarin.Essentials.
If I turn it back up again.
Hello to Xamarin.Essentials.
Pretty awesome. With just a single line of code, I'm able to not only speak back the text, but also control the volume of that playback. Now, like I said, you can also control the pitch here or even get the locales. Now, we have great documentation on how to go through those locales, maybe provide that as an option to your user, and then set that locale here before you do speak async. Now, there are a few limitations. So if you're doing multiple utterances across multiple threads, it's not going to handle that. And of course, background audio playback is not supported. So it's only when your application is open and your user is looking at it. But that's it. With just a few lines of code, you have text-to-speech in your application, creating a delightful experience for your users and whatever your application is. Now, I hope you enjoyed this Xamarin.Essential API of the week, and we have 20, 30, 40 of these already out there that dive into every single API. So dive through all those playlists, hit like, subscribe, do all the things that I tell you to do at the end of every single video. Thanks for watching, and have a good one. Hey, it's James. I'm just checking in and wanted to thank you for watching this awesome Xamarin.Essential API of the week. Now, don't forget to do all the things, such as like, subscribe, and ding that notification bell for even more videos. And while you're here, check out more Xamarin.Essential API videos of the week. They're all right here. Go do it right now. It's awesome.